December 15th, 2020 to order and ask you to do a roll call.
Sure. Mayor Hill,
Here.
Commissioner Tankersley,
Here.
Commissioner Gormley,
Here.
Commissioner Fuchs,
Here.
and Commissioner Christensen will be joining us. She'll just be a little bit late.
Thank you, Trina. We have 3 items on the consent agenda. Is there any commissioner that would like to have any item taken off the consent agenda and put on the regular agenda this evening?
No.
No.
I'd move for the adoption of the consent agenda.
And a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Ed and seconded by Patrick. All those in favor of the consent agenda as approved, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Consent agenda passes unanimously this evening. We have the account.
I'm parked out front.
Yeah, Brent, okay.
The account payables and purchasing reports for your review in our packet. No appearance requests this evening. No staff reports or old business evening. That takes us to new business. And so we'll have our, let's go back up to consultant partner reports. And so Brent, I see that you're on the line. So if you would run us through your report.
Okay, can you hear me, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Okay. Would you like me to go through the letter first?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're pretty well buttoned up for the 2020 forest program. The 720 road sale is complete. That was a 2019 sale. The 107 road sale is also complete. And actually just this week, they're buttoning up the Boundary 300 Bald Mountain Road sale. So everything came out real well this year, and we're all set on all the sales. 2021 reforestation, we've got a pretty good handle on what we're going to need to interplant heading into this upcoming planting season based on our recent regeneration surveys. We're also looking at 2021 stumpage sales, and I'll talk a little more about this reforestation and the sales as I go through the annual report. So I don't know if there's any questions about the current activities.
Any question for Brent on the current?
No.
Thank you.
So let's go ahead and then go to the review and then the proposal for 2021, Brent.
Okay. Okay, I assume everybody's kind of looked through it, and I'm just going to go through each section and hit some high points. Go ahead and, of course, stop me if you have any questions. Starting off with the 2020 summary of the management activities. You know, did a lot of reforestation, had our timber sales, got a lot of silviculture accomplished with slashing and pre-commercial thinning, a lot of road maintenance and our normal inventory, environmental projects, and then some extra projects that we supported Water and Light with. Main thing I'd point out here is the extensive amount of reforestation we did. You know, about 60,000 seedlings were planted in previously harvested units, which is real good to get done. Didn't anticipate that much headed into our surveys last year, but once we got that back, then we realized we needed to put some trees back in some of these units.
So Brent, what was the reason we had the poor survival?
Well, some of these have been some ongoing. The 133 unit, after this year's survey that we just got done, we've now got that to a level. That was actually first planted in 2015. It's just been we had a couple of drought years. It's on a south slope. It's got some tough wet areas, lots of browse. And over the years, we generally have done a lot of interplanting in some areas just because we don't spray, and we do have a lot of competition, you know, in the units. But you know, for various reasons, but most of it's just been some of this drought period we were in, really until 2000, the summer of 19. Prior, the 5 years before that were really tough summers when we just weren't getting that shot of rain in the summer. And then last year, and actually this year until Labor Day were pretty good forestry summers, you know. So
Good,
but-
good, okay. Thank you.
So then moving on to the current log market watershed inventory section on page 5. You know, and as we've talked about over the years, water and light captures a lot of value that other agencies doesn't, for a variety of reasons. I think the main ones being that we have more flexibility with our program. We're more focused on these final harvests that are much more efficient economically, and then have much lower administrative costs than the state or federal government would have as well. So since 2000, we've averaged about $577 Doug fir bid price on our highest sale each year, and you can see that in the graph. Our highest stumpage sale bid price ever was 1996, where we got $1,200. So Phil Davidson always reminds me of that. And log buyers will say that we probably get at least $50, $75 premium on our wood, just because it's tighter grain, extremely dense, and has strength that a lot of valley wood wouldn't have. So like an outfit like Frank is really anxious to bid on our sales when the size of the wood fits them, because they do a lot of stress grading, and it's a tighter grain, slower growing, higher value product. Current log markets here on page 6, prices are higher for all dimensions of wood now than they were last year. It's been a tumultuous year in a lot of ways, but as far as the timber industry goes, lumber was at all-time highs. It's come down some, now it's back up. There's really nothing pointing to any decline in the near future for that. There's just not a lot of wood available. And we've seen some prices come down in local markets in these fire areas, where some of the local mills are getting flooded with salvage volume, but at the same time, 100 miles away, some mills are raising their prices because they don't have enough wood. So I'd still anticipate good prices. And we're a little bit outside of those average markets anyway with the kind of material we have. When you have a Herbert bidding on your wood. So I'd anticipate real good prices this winter. If you look at all the different indicators in terms of housing and builder confidence, and the general forest products sector here in the Northwest should be strong. So I'd look at like an average price, probably right around $600 again for our sales in February. The poles this year, I looked at that a little different on the report. We've kind of had it in the proposal and the alternatives as kind of a line item, and we just haven't done it for the 2 years leading up to when Wynn's contract expired. We didn't do poles. We did some salvage, which was good, but it just hasn't been feasible. I mean, the delivered price is real good now, but it just doesn't. I don't anticipate it would exceed our stumpage value this year again. The thing about the $1,000 is even we got the $1,000 average for poles. Probably costs $300 to get them to market. And then you're not just making poles, you're generating a lot of other volume that you have to pedal. And we get good price for it, but we probably wouldn't get an average of $600 by the time you pay the logger and manage it. So we'll look at that. I think we should always keep an eye on it, but I think mostly we would reserve it as an option in a dramatic decline in the market like we saw in 2009 type situation. So I didn't put it in here as a actual alternative this year.
Brent, that makes sense to me, but I would appreciate if you keep an eye on it, because I think if the pole market really peaked because they had a shortage of poles or something, we could move in the middle of the season, right?
Oh, sure.
Okay, great. So just keep an eye on it, please.
Yep, you bet. And I think the other thing is they, when we think right in the heyday when we were doing polls 5 years ago, we were able to do that bidding process because there were some bidders. Well, now it's just Stella Jones basically. Bell Pole is down in Lebanon, but they're not really in the area, so a little different situation. But yeah, we'll certainly keep an eye on it.
Okay,
That
great.
goes for all kinds of specialty products and other things as well. So page 7 here, in terms of recommendations, I think general strategy has been to work in these older stands as they're declining, not really growing, and reach their potential. And we're not looking to liquidate that, but we're looking to just steadily work through it. Now, we have had to move away from some of these larger wood areas just because of adjacency. We don't have the green up that we like to see. I like to see a little more than the bare minimum of green up for adjacent units, meaning when you cut a unit, then you plant it, we're not obligated by the practice rules to do that, because you can have 120 acre clear cuts, but even for our small 20 acre openings, we like to have that area grown up 5-10 feet, 5-10 years before we cut next to that unit. So we're moving around all the time, and we've just run into some areas in the larger wood where we can't come back in there for a while. So we're at this point looking at one like 150-year-old stand and then one that's like 80. So still both relatively large wood sales, but relative to the watershed, basically one large wood, one small wood, one that would fit Herbert real good, one that fits Frank type strategy. So I'd anticipate 2 stands like that, 2 harvest units, generating about $2.2 million in income from a harvest. That should be about between 3.5 and 4 million feet. And one of those sales we'd offer on a 1.5-year contract again, like we've done, which works real good. Buyers like those, and it's worked out pretty good last few years. So future outlook, on page 8 here, I think we are getting to a point. I know it seemed like for 20 years we were talking about being done with the large wood type in about 20 years. It seemed like we kept saying that, but we are getting working through those areas, and I would say in like 15 years we'll probably be in average of 80-year-old stuff, so still really old timber, but we're going to continue to work through those stands that are declining, and we'll keep an eye on this pole market. I think will always remain a potentially valuable revenue option into the future. So, and right now the poles, that $1,000 you can is an average price you can get for 45-foot poles. And so even if we in time don't have the 130-foot poles, the big H-class poles that we had, we've still got really nice pole timber going forward. You see some graphs on page 10 showing our annual harvest volume. And you can see how that was down some in 2020, really off of the same amount of area. We cut 86 acres. It's just that 86 had a little less volume per acre. Kind of like to use that rule of thumb of staying under 100 acres just as an area control, so that we can maintain the 70-year-old rotation age. And so that can kind of go up and down, and also can go up and down depending on the configuration of the unit. Sometimes the unit might want to cut 40, but if it's 46 acres total, you'll cut a little more because that makes more sense, or the other way. So this year we were right at about 3 million feet for this year's sales. Of course, we cut part of last year's volume this year. So, but that was accounted for in the 19 volume. You can see, and it really shows the distribution of ages and the long rotation age we have in the watershed, looking at the age class graph, where we've still got about 1,500 acres over 66 years in age. Of that, within that older class, probably have about 300 or 400 acres of that 150-year-old type. So you see on page 12, you've seen this over the years, these alternatives laid out individually and then cumulatively. And I've taken out the pole program just to make it a little more simple to analyze, because we just haven't done it, and I don't anticipate doing it. So you can see everything from no program up to the full program of cutting a little under 4 million feet with about 2.3 million in income. The salvage there, if we didn't do salvage by itself, we still end up doing it as part of the sales. It's written into the contracts that buyers are going to have to cut so much salvage volume. It's usually put on the map. We got quite a bit this year. It is in the vicinity of the stumpage sales that Lule was logging. And of course, the salvage over time is going to decline because it's just a function of the older timber. So the younger our average age gets out there, the less salvage we'll have, just because it's really based on these much older stands that where you have more mortality and so on. So a little bit of detail on pages 13 and 14 on the sales. Just a little rundown of the values, and pretty much our standard strategy. And the log marketing, as we do the same thing with that 2-year sale. I'm on page 15 now here, where we'd sell that 2-year sale just the same as the other one, and they'd have to pay half of that value in 6 months and the remaining within a year. So like that sale that Herbert cut this year, they had completely paid for in January of 2020, and didn't even start till April. So that was fine with them to tie that up and pay that. That worked good. And folks, so that thinking for a lot of folks like Herbert is they can buy that, and then if other volume on the open market shows up, they can grab that and then hold our volume as a bit of a safety net, because they only need 15, 20 million feet a year at their mill. So that's a nice option for them. And we've talked a bunch about Douglas fir poles and other log sales. possibility of that going forward, but I wouldn't anticipate a standalone pole and salvage program unless we hit a depressed log market, or like you said, Tom, a really hot pole market.
Yeah.
On page 16 and 17, you can see kind of the layout of the sales within the watershed. On the photo there, which is a great photo I actually got from your guys' shop there, shows how we move these units around the watershed and try to avoid these opening up too big openings. So one of the sales will be just up the road from the treatment plant there in the southwest corner, and one will be more up in the heart of the watershed there at the 750 road. Look at the proposed budget and a review of the last 5 years. You can see on page 19, in the last 10 years, this has pretty much been the trend of about 10% of the management costs to net income. And of course, those management costs include seedlings and contractors and some road maintenance and a lot of costs that MBG is just passing through. That's not our core cost, but right at 10%. And then on page 20, you can see the forest management charges by category over the last 5 years. And you can see the reforestation, it's budgeted for 60 in November of last year. Well, by December of last year, I think we're gonna end up spending more of to get everything planted than we budgeted, but we still came out under, budget for the year, but that's one advantage of doing the meeting a little later. I knew a little more this year. But, see that illustrated with a graph on page 21 there. And then on 22, you can see 22, and then on a graph of 23, then you can see where pulling out the reforestation, which is largely, costs that are just, operating costs that aren't MBG's charges. So you can see our total budget was actually lower than it's been for the previous 4 years there. So the core charges. And then there's a breakdown on towards the end here, pages 24 through 24 and 25 that show the little more, some detail and kind of who's doing what within each category. So. And then the budget proposal on page 26, and then I broke out that reforestation just so you could see, what's the 100,000 for? Well, I anticipate we need about 85,000 seedlings. And that's something I should note real fast. That's going to be something we're on top of. Of course, we order some of our seedlings are sown years out. So those are secured 2-3 years before we even need them. They're being grown for us. And then a year before we plant, I'm getting open market stuff together. And so we make sure we have everything. But that's going to be a really interesting situation with this fire. And all of a sudden, not just people's merchantable timber burning, but also a lot of plantations, going to be a lot of rehabilitation work. And so seedlings are going to be really in high demand. And of course, a lot of nurseries are just going to expand their operations, but we'll need to be on top of that to make sure we have what we need. You see the seedling planting administration breakdown there for costs. Seedlings have come up in price, and I'd hope that we get them for less than 55 cents a piece, but
Whoa.
that's what we were paying last year. And planting, that's an average cost there of, so it's under 40 cents for regular planting, but it's a little over 40 for interplanting. That costs, they charge a little more for that. The way the planting works is the contractor is paid by the tree, but he pays his guys by the hour, which I like, because then they're not, if you say, hey, go down there and plant 6 trees, they're getting paid the same, and they'll, you know, I think the quality's better. So, and then our administration is shown there. So that's the breakdown on reforestation. So the budget, the previous 3 years was the same at 299.5, and just proposing a little more this year because of that increased reforestation. Of course, drop some other categories to try to keep the budget down. And then that's shown in a graph on 27, and that's my report. I kind of went through it quickly there. I don't know if there's any other questions or.
So let's go ahead and open it up for questions for Brent.
No, I'm fine. It was very thorough.
Brent, the logs that came out off the fire is that going to create a big surplus in the marketplace, or are they not going to be merchantable? The San
Well,
Diego fire.
at this point, they're really rushing that stuff to market, and if it's a lot of it is. I was just at RSG's mill in Molalla yesterday, and it's the stuff that just burned the bark is they're getting the same price for it, so they're recovering that. Even some of the charred wood, they're paying less for it. It's a defect, but they can deliver that. I would think even on the west side here, within 6 months, once you get into the spring and the ambrosia beetles start to hit that stuff, you're going to see it start to have more defect and probably decline in merchantability and then value and everything. But I don't, it kind of remains to be seen as far as what prices will do. I wouldn't, kind of depends on the area you're in. I think, you know, around that, in that Molalla area where Interfor and RSG are, they've dropped their prices. They're down to in the 600s, and they were in the 800s a few months ago. But at the same time, up in Longview, the same company, RSG, is paying $850 up there. So I think it sort of remains to be seen. There is quite a shortage of wood in North America. You know, not as much coming out of Canada, and you know, so we'll see. I think overall, I would guess prices would decline a certain amount. But then again, a lot of that wood is not in winter logging areas either. So I think a lot of this could be sort of a wash. And there's only so much workforce, you know. So even if you want to log it all, there's only so many trucks, and a lot of the outfits that would normally do the work lost all their machines in the fires, and so it's.
And some of them chose just to lock it up, except take the insurance money and give it up.
A few, and there were some older outfits with all their equipment paid for that were hardly insured that said, "Well,
Yeah, too bad.
not going to start over now." But I think most of them that I work with are that lost some machines or get their machines back and getting back in gear. And that hardwood mill that burned down in Mill City, he's rebuilding and going to get going again. So,
Good. I didn't know if this is something that Tom and I should invest in, a Timber King or a Timber Miser, and we go out and be Hippo Sawmill on the South 40. Give us something to do, Tom, in our retirement.
I'm not as tough as I used to be, Ed, and probably never was, actually.
Let the machinery do all of it. We can have nice toys to sit on and drive and air-conditioned cabs. Okay, great information. Thanks again. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Brent.
you bet.
So we, we'll be looking for approval or a motion to approve or an alternative one, either 1, 2, or 3. And then we're also looking for approval of the annual budget of Mason, Bruce, and Gerard, and approval and direction for staff to prepare the annual contract and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign. That's kind of what we're looking for in action items.
So one simple so moved wouldn't probably work very well.
Well, so moved as to the alternative 3, which is the whole enchilada, I think is the correct term.
Tom, this is not Mexican food. This is these logs.
Oh, okay. So
I'll
I
second.
move
I'll
to
second.
adopt, we accept alternative 3, accept the budget as presented for the full options, and authorize and staff to prepare the contracts, prepare and execute the contracts with Mason Bruce for the upcoming year.
And how about Mason Bruce's contract?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Okay, I'll second that.
So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The vote, any nays? The voting's been unanimous. And so Sam, you've got your direction for putting those contracts together for us and bringing back at a later date.
Actually, you've authorized signatures, so
Okay,
we'll
okay.
get them prepared for Trina to get those to you. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Thanks, Brent. Happy
Okay.
holidays.
Thank you so much. Have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Brent.
Okay, again, no appearance reports, staff reports, or old business, taking us down to new business. Our first item is COVID update, extension of emergency declaration. And so John Dietz, if you'd update us on that.
Sure. So a couple things that have changed here in the last month. One is the governor's 2-week freeze. With that freeze, we sent a number of employees home. We have to work from home. We have not brought them back at this time due to the spiking cases of COVID. Also, with the governor's new framework OHA put out, we're going to have to adapt and change our staffing here at the facility to include individual offices or a 100% mask requirement when you're out in the building. So that will be happening next week.
That's actually an OSHA requirement, right, John?
Yeah, it's actually put out by OHA, but OSHA is using OHA guidelines. So it's
So we as an employer, it's going to mandate us to follow it.
correct. So if OHA changes the guideline, it just automatically goes with OSHA. So yeah, that's been a challenge. Construction, as Brent was mentioning, logs, construction continues to be extremely busy. We've got a lot of work continuing. We completed work on Greenbrier, both electric and water. So I think we're just down to concrete repair and asphalt repair out there. Front office, credit card payments continue to increase. Last month, we had 4,261 payments by credit card for a total of $607,000 and some change, compared to last November, which was 2,316 payments for $338,000 and some change there. Customers helping customers, that program is still continuing, although we are not hitting the maximum that staff has set for that program. And then I would also add arrearages appear to start, with the winter weather, have started to increase slightly, but they're still manageable. And then I would also point you to the fees waived since the beginning of COVID. We're up to just under $378,000 in fees waived for our customers. It's time.
John, I thought I heard you say that we aren't paying out as much as we'd budgeted for customers helping customers. Is that correct? And if so, why?
I'm not sure why. I think, we increased the amount, but I think also the CARES money has helped in
Oh,
that
okay.
regard as well. But that money ends December 31st.
Uh-huh.
So one of the things that I wanted to get a nod from the commission on was, we increased the water and light contribution from $20,000 to $40,000 for this year. The question I have for the commission, would they like to do that in 2021? And if so, I would come back with a recommendation in January.
I would think that if it's needed, we should do it, but we'll have a better idea whether it's going to be needed when we see how the vaccine rollout works and whether Congress extends the CARES Act thing to help people. So I'd like you to think about it and talk to us about it next meeting, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
And John, I think that we will probably know while we're putting the budget together, because I hear that the vaccine should be pretty widely spread and available, that we may be returning to more of a normalcy at the end of May and June timeframe from a business perspective. Now, that still means there's all kinds of needs out there, but.
Correct. Okay. And then the other thing is extension, staff is recommending extension of the emergency declaration to January 20th of 2021. And I think Sam has a resolution for that.
Yeah, that's a part of the packet.
I do. Trina, what's the number for that?
33.
And if the commission's ready, I can read that by title only.
Go
Yes.
ahead, Sam.
That's resolution 2020-33, a resolution by the City of McMinnville Municipal Corporation, State of Oregon, acting by and through its Water and Light Commission, declaring and extending a state of emergency with regard to operation of the water and light plants of the City of McMinnville.
Thank you. Trina, could you poll the commission?
I move adoption of the resolution.
Okay. A second? It's been moved and seconded. Trina, could you poll the commission?
Sure. Mayor Hill,
Yes?
Commissioner Tankersley,
Yes.
Commissioner Gormley,
He's on mute.
Commissioner Gormley, are you there? Well, Commissioner Fuchs.
Yes.
So we have let's see, Ed was not available and Jody isn't on the line yet, but we still have a quorum. Is that correct, Sam? You're on mute also.
That's correct.
That is correct. So you have Commissioner Gormley. I guess he's apparently not participating at this time due to some type of technical difficulty.
Okay, thank you for that. And so resolution 2020-33 passes 3-5. Okay. That now next will take us next to the approval of the credit card agreement from First Data. John Spence, could you go over that for us?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, everybody. So in your packet, you'll find the memo detailing the approval of the credit card agreement with First Data. Staff's looking for a conditional approval of the contract documents to enter into agreement with First Data Merchant Services. They are the credit card service provider for NISC, and we use SmartHub, and that's our online presence with NISC. Kind of a summation of the memo there. Back in 2013, the commission authorized implementation of SmartHub, and that replaced the discontinued e-bill product. That brought a better online presence and the ability to take those online payments. March 2014, the commission considered and approved the contract documents for credit card and e-check services, which was also through First Data. And that was under the NISC billed convenience fee model. In the end of this packet, you'll find the contract agreements, and it's roughly the exact same contract, only there's a few different items, and I'll point those out when we get back to it. In the last few months, staff has presented to the commission in a few different meetings some advantages that move into the convenience fee model, where away from the convenience fee model to the standard model, where the convenience fee model, the customer was paying $3.95. That was not collected. It was collected to Water and Light, which was in turn getting sent to NISC, and NISC was paying the interchange pass-through to the credit card servicer. The standard model, which we have discussed and are looking forward with this First Data agreement, MAC Water and Light would now be taking that interchange pass-through fee, which we have looked at about averaging $1.30 per credit card and 20 cents per e-check. The first payment from SmartHub that we received, and that was back with the fee model, was June of 2015. I believe part of the reason that a lot of that took so much time was there was some amendments that we wanted to get onto the First Data agreement, which is kind of right where we are again, and that's why we're looking for some conditional approval. We're hoping that this snag or hang up isn't as long as the first one, to get that amendment added on there. Some things that happened when we went to SmartHub and got away from our first credit card vendor, Official Payments. Official Payments did allow us to accept credit cards, did not integrate with our business system at all. Staff was entering payments one at a time with a list the following day. So payments were still getting entered, just there was a little bit of delay before you saw that customer made that payment. With SmartHub and the true integrated payment that NISC offers, it was almost instantaneous update of their account. So we could see on their account that the payment was made. So a couple good advantages of the SmartHub program there. Also, customers like it. Numbers have increased. I think, as you saw in the memo, it didn't take long to surpass the number of official payments, that credit card payments that we had, online payments. And ever since then, it's increased on a monthly basis, especially since we hit COVID and we didn't have payments received in the office. There was no other alternative, and those numbers just really skyrocket every month. We seem to be setting a new record. So moving on down, just kind of summing up this whole memo here. Risk of payment loss with a credit card, there's not much more risk than someone writing a bad check or an NSF fee. The only exception that I've seen, we have had a few payments that were, I just blanked on the term, but they were fought or they were
Disputed?
Disputed, that's the correct word, thank you. And both of those, I can only think of a small handful, and those were handled directly with First Data. Basically, someone stole someone's card and they were disputing that payment. I can think of 3 since I've been up here that we've had of those since the start. But as far as the total number since we started this, that number is the 235 is very small compared to what we see even on the Smart Bill, where we automatically withdraw customers. We're seeing about an average of about 20 a month from all other payments. The cyber risk, I think we got Mr. Eastland involved back when this first started, setting up with some cyber risk insurance to help protect this online venture that we were doing to help that risk. Part of the arrangement that we have right now, where we do not actually accept the card in the office, we don't have taking card numbers over the phone. That kind of keeps us out of that. PCI, is that the PCI compliance issue? That's kind of all on NISC now, which is our vendor there. So they handle all that. So looking for the sole source procurement with First Data, Using that $1.30, yes, sorry, go ahead, Tom.
Excuse me, John, before you move on
Yeah.
to that, once we go back to having an office and accepting credit card payments there, will we have the data protection requirements that NISC is handling now? Will that be our responsibility?
No, it'll still be the same. So intention is not to actually take a customer's credit card physically from us.
Oh, okay.
The future would be customer comes in, we say, you can, if you want to use your credit card, you can either call on the phone, you can go on the app on the phone or website. If you actually want to do it physically, I think that's where the kiosk in the office would come into play. They could,
Okay, that's right. Yeah.
So
No,
without having that Verifone device at the counter, that is where you would minimize that risk of the PCI.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. So getting back to the sole source procurement, using that $1.30 average per credit card transaction, staff is estimating the fees to First Data in 5 years to be just a little over $286,000. That number could go either way depending on the popularity of credit card payments. It could get a little higher, it could get a little lower. And I believe with that amount over that time period, we would need to do an advertisement, if I remember right, Sam, for services for a, what was the term that we used on that, Sam? It was a not argument, but no
protest.
protest. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, we would.
Sorry, all
advertise-
these short words are giving me problems tonight. So that we're looking for the sole source procurement on that one. The other item with the online payments with NISC and using their First Data as their credit card partner. As I showed you kind of with official payments, any other vendor using that would not have an integration that is already ready to use, integrated right out of the box per se. That doesn't mean it couldn't get to there, but you would need some programming by both vendors, our vendor and the whatever credit card vendor we would look to in the future to somehow get that automated. And at best, it would probably be a day, and then everything would be uploaded automatically. So once again, you probably would not get your automated or automatic payment status on the customer's account. So kind of to surmise that, staff is recommending that the commission approve the contract documents with First Data with the condition that First Data returns the amendments that have been asked by General Counsel and approve those as submitted to them. On those documents, it's the exact same contract as prior, with the exception of the exhibit that has been added by General Counsel for public contracting code for Oregon. And also on the actual iView First Data Gateway selection on page 69, we are checking the standard program instead of the NISC billed convenience fee model. The addition a little bit above that, so we do take payments over mobile, pay now, e-bill, IVR. We would be adding the additional recurring credit card, which was not available prior to having the convenience fee. Sorry to be so long-winded. Anybody have any questions?
You did a nice job, John. I guess I would just add that, if considering the sole sourcing, we'd be asking the commission to consider making the determination. It's at the top of the memo. There's a determination. The second paragraph spells out or suggests determinations. That's the word that the statute uses, not findings, but determinations relating to the sole sourcing.
So, Mr. Mayor, I'm looking at the document, and I would move that we follow staff's recommendation, and that the determination has been made pursuant to ORS 275B 075 and ORAR 137-047-0275, that implementation of McMinn Water Light's existing smart program with NISC credit card services only available from one source, and that's First Data. because one, McMinnville Water and Light's financial system is integrated with NISC, and First Data is exclusive credit card service for NISC's Smart Hub. Two, securing another credit card provider would expose McMinnville Water and Light to additional costs. And three, likewise, inefficiencies that can only be avoided by purchase of services from First Data.
Thank you for that motion, Ed. And again, Sam, we also need to have those attachments 1 and 2 a part of
Right.
it.
And, yeah, and I'll understand if and correct me if I'm misspeaking this, but I'll understand having made that determination, the motion would include approval of conditional approval of contract documents to be entered with First Data for credit card services with the sole source determination, authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute subject to contracting code compliant amendment documents and publication of notice of intent to award and no objections being
So
received.
that was part of my motion, and those are exhibits within the document that's been sent to us, correct? I'm looking at them.
Yeah, it's within the document.
Yes.
Question.
I had a quick question. On page 4 of 11 of the merchant processing application and agreement, that's the documents, page 4 of 11.
Mhm.
And the first paragraph in the top, it seems to say that it talks about that we will not accept more than 20% of the card transactions via mail, telephone, or internet order. And but then there's an exception, and I can't quite follow. I assume we meet the exception, right?
I would think so, because we're totally, we use a third party processing entity. So we actually don't take anything. It's all done through Smart Hub over the internet, as I understand it.
Okay, okay. So this is not a problem, right?
I do not believe it is, no. And
Okay.
we've entered, no.
Okay. Okay. Then great. Then I second the motion.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. All in favor of accepting this motion as presented, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any nays, not in favor, please indicate by saying nay. So we have a unanimous adoption of this, and for the record, Jody Christensen has joined us now, and so she voted also. Okay, so I think we've taken care of this business. Let's move on to the review of the NISC services. And John, if you'll continue with that.
Yes, thank you. So in your memo, the next section should be about the contract update for NISC. Staff is looking for direction from the commission to continue with NISC without a solicitation process as a sole source provider, or get into the future solicitation process down the road at some point. The dates of purchase, along with the one-time implementation costs, monthly maintenance fees, and groups of all the software purchases that have been done, are referenced in the memo. I can detail each one out if you want, or we can ask questions on them kind of when I get to the end. I've got a little bit more detail on the slides in the PowerPoint. Kind of a quick rundown. The current monthly invoices that we pay to NISC are $12,270. Those would fall monthly maintenance fees, licensing, and that is the total amount for that on a monthly basis. The additional price that we pay to NISC is the AMS, or the automated mail service. That is a separate fee. I detailed that in one of those line items in there. We can talk a little bit more about as well. Those numbers vary, actually 16,400-ish to almost 19,000 bills, depending on the type of month we have. And that ranges in anywhere from $8,000 to $9,000, depending on the volume of letters that they mail for us. One of the months that I checked, you're looking at maybe a little under 51 cents per item that they're sending out for us. So By the time, it might be a little bit more than the postage we could do, but by the time you figure in any manual labor, it is easily paying for itself to have them mail our bills for us. That was kind of a huge quick rundown on the actual memo. It kind of details when we purchased. I think it started it back in 2008. Commission awarded the contract. We didn't actually go live for a little bit later, I think in 2009. Software was done. It started as a CIS ABS system, and then as staff kind of got more comfortable with the product, more modules, more features were found to help efficiencies and processes along the way. I just mentioned the AMS that we added, the E&O suite, which added staking, mapping, things that help the engineering departments quite well. Document Vault back in 2012 was huge. Really helped us to go paperless. A lot of stuff is scanned and put onto accounts. Almost every group of the company uses that to some extent. Even our mechanics, they can scan and put stuff on vehicles instead of having files of information. Smart Hub was a big add. Call capture secure payments was part of that, so we could have folks call in over the phone, make secure payments. Once again, another feature. We have our own 800 number that customers call and can make payments, check the status of their account, make a payment. It's automatically updated, just like the online payments. Call to order, which all you folks are using to get your information on the meeting that we're in right now. Remit Plus, I came to you folks in 2019. That allowed us to scan our checks and do an electronic deposit to the bank. Moved up our deposits for all those payments by a day. In the future coming, iView Connect is their next flavor or new and improved version of their software. We are on, and I believe we did get approval to move into the financial persona, which I think Mark took, or it might have been Chad. But we are slated to enter into that beginning of the next quarter. Cyber Academy we've added. I think Thad's implemented that to help train employees with security risks online as far as bad emails, things of that nature, things to protect yourself and the company. So I didn't intend to go through each one of those. I wanted to kind of do that a little bit more in the presentation, which unless there's any immediate questions, I'll just kind of jump right into that slideshow.
Okay.
Perfect.
Go ahead.
All right. I think Trina has allowed me to share. There we go. Can everybody see the first slide?
Yes, John.
Perfect. Okay, so part of the other reason that we wanted to do this is this was really the first time we've really reviewed the software since we started. And we wanted to kind of make this a habit of getting back every 5-ish, 7-ish years, depending on where we go in the future, just to kind of update everybody on just kind of where we're standing with the software. So with NISC, they formed in 2000 as a consolidation of 2 processing co-ops that were formed in the mid-60s. That was a Central Area Data Processing Co-op and a North Central Data Co-op. They currently have members in all 50 states, Canada, American Samoa, and Palau, I think is how you pronounce that. It's an island chain in the Micronesia area of Oceania. So their member growth, NISC has added over 300 new members since we joined in 2009. In the last 5 years alone, 107 were added. Of those 107, 77 of them were utilities. 17 were municipal, 9 were public power, 50 co-ops, and 1 was a small investor-owned utility. 30 of those were telecom. With all those members they have, there's more than 20 million consumers that receive utility or telecom services from those companies that utilize their advanced information technology system. Here's a depiction of our region, our Northwest region. There's 68 sites, and these are utility sites across the Northwest. This group has its own regional group. They meet in different meetings throughout the year. They've been canceled due to COVID. I've been had the pleasure of visiting a couple of them. It's a great way to form friends and other contacts with other utilities that do the same thing you do, and bounce questions off them on how to utilize a certain piece of software, or even what kind of policies to use. It can be non-NISC related as well. Here's kind of a quick picture of the NISC enterprise. It's kind of made up of, starting on that top left, the customer care and billing, some cybersecurity services that they offer, technical services that they can offer, member engagement, which is some things packed into it they would offer as well. Accounting and billing is one of the ones that we are participating in, obviously. The engineering and operations packages, and obviously the customer care and billing is, as I said, as well. Expanding on the customer care and billing, the initial purchase, this was part of the initial purchase along with the ABS portion back in February 2008. It's made up of the billing and collections, customer management, integrated solutions, which are Remit Plus is an example of what we added in May of 2019. Payments and work management all kind of fall under this customer care and billing. We have a call capture. There's a full-blown version. We kind of have the light version, and the reason ours is a light version is it's what's needed to have customers pay over that 800 number and make their payment on there. Accounting and the business solutions has assets management. You can organize, track, group, report, maintain, and calculate the value of the assets. Employee administration is more payroll, admin, distributing labor costs, and providing access to personnel information. The financial controls, you can monitor the financials, access and extract data, and gather real-time transactions. And the purchasing workflow, I think, has really helped Chad and his department. It's helped streamline the purchasing flow. We've added signatures. I know before we had to deliver stuff to, I think, Mr. Mayor, and had to sign everything. Now everything is just approved, and that puts that stamp of the signatures. John, general manager, approval of purchase orders is kind of the same thing with that. The engineering and operations was added there in 2009. Biggest part that was used on that is the mapping, MapWise and staking. Really has helped the department kind of lay out the jobs and get everything integrated into the system, and make it a better way for them to mark things up, edit them, and then actually approve, and then it just lines out onto the GIS mapping. So the outage management, I think, is included in that, but we don't really utilize that. Look forward to the day that we can. It'll really help customers diagnose where your outages are, and it'll allow for two-way communication just to respond back to those customers and give them messages. So that's something neat that can be down the road. The work management solutions, service order management is one of those big items in that, and also App Suite. App Suite is basically almost like a mobile workforce. We can do stuff. There's an app that we would run on our phone or a tablet. I know we're doing some inspections out in the field that can come back and interface with our main system once it's uploaded. Another one's the meter data management. That's another one that could be really neat down the road. AMI, AMR, interval data, a lot of that is really neat to come down the road. Customers could see hourly data. We could publish that out for them to kind of see, and it'd help customers see their usage on an hourly basis as opposed to just once a month. that probably is some time away, I believe. The last three sections, I just kind of tied them all together because they're more a la carte per se. So they do offer things in this area, and you can see that we've got some cybersecurity. We do participate in that cyber education, which I mentioned earlier with Thad, kind of spearheading that. The technical services area, Document Vault's a big one we added. Call to Order is another one we've added. Member engagement. Smart Hub is a huge one. Smart Hub touches all kinds of things, not just the member engagement, but that's kind of one of the big pieces. And Messenger is a huge tool in that as well. Those are kind of tied together. A good way for, I know Trina's utilized that a lot to deliver messages to our customers through this COVID time, where we can just tailor a message and send it out to all of our customers at their preferred way of communication. This is the enterprise configuration. It has the main features that we use: the finance accounting, the customer care and billing, Smart Hub. A few of the ones we don't either. Meter data management's included in there, but this kind of shows you how everything relates together. And a lot of these black lines are some of their integrated components that help improve those things working together. Couple of the items I had on, I didn't understand what the AVL or the EA were, so I had to ask. AVL is pretty neat. It's a vehicle location, so you can actually have a customer call in an outage. You could have a product out on your line rig that says, given the GPS coordinates back, and you could see where they are and dispatch the closest rig to that outage. With such a small territory that we serve, probably not super great, but it's just some of the cool things that this stuff can do. Okay, oops, that was just a little comment on the stop. The challenging part are the lines in between, but most of the focus tends to be on the colorful, nice colorful boxes there. Okay, the scope of NASC, this is my last final slide here. This is has some of the telecom products on here, a lot of the smart or the utility products, but this is just kind of each of these items listed help contribute to their fully integrated system. As a member-owned and driven co-op, NIC continues to evolve to meet the needs of their not only utility customers, but all their customers. They send out quarterly software updates. A lot of those are improvements that they've found by members, or just things that they've stumbled across in bugs. So that's what different than the first product we had prior to NIC. I don't recall very regular updates, but they are constantly updating their product to put in enhancements that have been requested and approved. Through our partnership with NISC, MWL has improved their efficiencies by utilizing the capabilities of their software and using some of those integrated items that are on this list. Customer service has increased by having a fully integrated payment option, which I kind of mentioned before with Smart Hub, and the ability to check the status account, customer having the ability to check the status of their account over the phone, online, on their app. And a couple other things that I've kind of seen kind of being back in the IT world and then coming up front here. The technical hardware side has really, in my opinion, really bolstered with the NIC system. It's led us to data replication, added security, and their support is pretty good. Some of the updates from the old, and I know a lot of time has gone by since we had a different vendor, but I remember Mike almost wanting to cross his fingers, or Steve Hill, back in those days when there was an update needed on that old server. Some of the main things that I see are really benefiting us with this partnership. That was kind of another long-winded presentation. I apologize for talking so much. Are there any questions?
So this is a kind of a contract update and the various components of our services that we're purchasing right now. So any questions for John from the commission?
So, I don't know if this is, can you guys hear me or no?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So, I mean, you kind of sound like a marketing guy for NISC. So have we any chat with NISC?
Am I with them?
No, I'm just, the presentation was as though you were the marketing arm
Oh,
of NISC. And so have we had any challenges with the software?
well, and that's one of the reasons for this is we are looking to either have a sole source or go out for an RFP and see about a request for qualifications to see that challenge.
So that didn't answer my question.
Okay.
Have there been any challenges with the software? You gave me all, unicorns and rainbows.
Oh, I think I understand your question now. Have we experienced any challenges with this software?
Yeah.
Yes, there have been challenges. I know for when we first started implementing the software, it's more of a, it was designed for electric, so there were some issues with water. I think some of those have improved, but it really was designed for an electric utility. But we have water and we have added sewer, and we've worked through those issues. There was a few of the mapping issues, and I can't speak fully on those because that's not my department. But there have been issues. I mean, they have a great customer support. Whenever I run into an issue, I call and just get the best help I can, figure out, answer the question or the next process to get around that or the work through.
So are other employees of Water and Light, do they have to interface with NISC if they have issues, or are you the only guy?
No, everyone can call up NISC. We have our own support pod along with others in our region. They have dedicated support pods for, I'm not sure how many different regions they have, but we share a support pod with other utilities. Any one of us could call up, give our company ID number, and they'll do the best they can to help us find the answer or find someone that can.
So you have found that when we have had issues, that their support infrastructure has been responsive and we've been able to resolve those issues?
I have. I know there have been some that take longer, and I know even some that maybe they don't give you the answer that you're looking for, or they just say that the software wasn't designed to do that. Sometimes we have to step back and look at, well, are we doing something wrong? Do we need to look at how we're changing things? Have ran into a couple of those, but there are issues. I mean, I don't want to say that we run into issues every day, but I mean, as far as, hey, I'm doing the service order and I can't add this meter. I mean, we run into things like that on a regular basis, and they need to step in and help us.
And have they regularly or consistently been able to step in to make sure that we can continue to operate as a going concern?
Yes, we have the ability to red flag or flag a CR request, as they call it, to critical. I know there was one where I had a month end that bombed out. I flagged that one on after hour support to help me figure out why it bombed out and get it run, so that fortunately it was on a weekend, so I had a little bit of time. But you basically can't start up business until that month end finishes.
Okay. So you have all these hexagons on the screen of excitement and wonderment. And so where are we in the, are we relatively old in their generation of software that they're rolling out? Are we kind of in the middle? Are we, cutting edge? I mean, there seems to be a lot of pieces to this puzzle, and where are we in that constantly?
We are not cutting edge. I've learned by some of those regional classes and meetings that I've gone to, there are some customers that are cutting edge to where they are paperless. Everything's automated. Customer can get on your website, start its own service order, and create it from there. We aren't there yet. I think the more and more we use it, the more and more that we are increasing on that. The next step is they are getting ready to release, or they have released their next generation software, the Connect product. So where this is based on Java that runs on your machine, the Connect product is a web-based. So you would log in through there, and all your, so you could work from home much easier without having to log into a machine at work. Since it's all internet-based, you would, your user rights and everything would give you what you need once you log into that location.
All right, that's a very good answer, John. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And John, the question, and John Dietz may need to look at this. I'm looking at the map of the region, and it looks to me like most of the municipal utilities are using this software as I look at the map. Would you have an idea on that? Looks like
So-
Springfield, Forest Grove, us.
So I believe this was primarily originally as a co-op. So most of the co-ops in Oregon use this. So that's why you see over in, like Kearney here, Bend would be Lapine, those areas. I do not believe municipal wise, I'm trying to think, John, I don't think there's another municipal utility in Oregon that's using it. I think it's mostly the co-ops and PUDs that use it in Oregon.
And then what would be the alternative that we would have from a vendor standpoint? And how does this group stack up to the ones that we are very involved in then from a municipal standpoint?
I think that's what we would have to go out for an RFP to find out. I have not seen any other vendor that actually has this much integration, but I don't know. There may be one out there. I just don't know for sure.
Well, I think, of course, it was a long time ago. We did the initial RFP, but that was part of the reason for selecting NISC was they had better integration. And I've only seen that improve as the product has been used by us more. The only comments I get, and of course it's from NISC, but even when some of their customers are switching from credit card vendors to their credit card vendors, they're just so pleased, and you saved me so much money by switching to you running this process as opposed to what we were using before. And that was already customers using their software, just not maybe their credit card vendor.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Ed?
Mayor Scott, to John, tell me how the credit card system interfaces with this.
Not sure I understand the question. How many credit card?
Tell me, okay, so I know we've got an issue going with credit cards.
Yes.
And are they integrated into this, or is it kind of a standalone?
No,
situation?
so I think what you're asking, the first data solution we just talked about prior, is
Okay.
that what you mean?
We have a situation where we've not recorded sales of credit cards or the revenue.
Ed is talking about the in lieu of issue.
Oh, Mark might be a better person to ask those questions, but from my understanding is when we started accepting credit cards, they basically just were not included in that in lieu of tax number, is what I understand. And you might correct me if I'm wrong, John.
So my question to you, this is a follow-up to Patrick, is you seem to know a lot about this software.
Okay.
Is the software have the capacity that it would have a module that is related to credit card acceptance? And hence would be entered into the system?
I guess I'm not,
So
I don't know.
here, so
Okay.
the credit cards are entered into CIS. They are recorded in CIS, correct, John? And
Yes,
those
so
payments are recorded in
even-
CIS.
yes, even before we started talking about coming off the convenience fee model, moving to the non-convenience fee model, credit cards were entered into the system for Mac Water and Light. Customers' payments were updated within 30 seconds of making their payment. So the cards have been getting into the system. I think it's just a matter of that particular group of payments was not recognized as needing to be included in that number. I think, is that, do I understand your question
I'm
right?
just trying, I mean, I'm trying to find out physically if there's some connection with the acceptance of credit card and the software that you're involved with. And then I guess the issue is, and maybe this is where Mark comes in, but and maybe I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but this system, so the system, when we send bills out, that's integrated to where that we end up having some information that tells us our sales for the month were X dollars, correct?
Yes.
Then that's within this system.
Yes, we can get sales data from the system.
Okay, and so somehow the credit cards don't integrate the same as like a paper invoice or something, or a paper payment, or check payment.
So I don't want to speak out of turn or ruin Mark's presentation, but my understanding is those numbers have been there all along. It's just they were not included in our manual process of calculating that in lieu of tax number.
Okay, well, great. That's great information. You just gave me a word, manual.
Correct.
It's like the old time pegboard accounting, or.
And I think that, Commissioner Gormley, I think that even started with official payments. I don't think we were figuring that number in with official payments either.
Okay. So is there any other company out in the marketplace that you're aware of that could provide us something similar to this?
Not that I'm aware of, but I haven't really done any research either.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Tom, did you have your hand up?
I was, my first question was to staff, is this working well for you?
I believe so. Yes, I think so. I know so. I learn new things every day.
I was supportive moving toward this because we were having so much trouble with either a custom system or a system that really didn't have the support that we needed and didn't work together well. I was ready to go ahead and say let's keep with them and do the sole source until I realized that staff doesn't really know what else is out there, what eWeb is using, for instance, or something like that. So can we find that out and make sure there's not one that's even better tailored for us? And I want you to know, I understand that the switchover was a nightmare before and it would be worse now. But I think in fairness to the ratepayers and the public procurement system, we need to know what else is out there.
At the same time, would there be value in understanding the cost of transitioning to a new system?
I believe the answer is yes.
And then it may be in the documents. John, can you tell me how long is this contract that we're discussing?
This Sam, maybe we have a, that's one of the issues. That's why we brought this up, because the contract, we've been with them since 2008.
Really, 2000. Yeah, 2008. The contract, and this is an issue that sort of raised up in my mind, is really the contract is it was originally adopted as a software agreement, and it's kind of transmorphized, or whatever the right word is, into partially a software agreement and then a services agreement. And so it really is kind of open-ended, and the NISC, as you can hear, is run as a cooperative. They actually kind of operate like a utility, and they've transitioned over time from having, we have this 2008 software agreement with them, but as we've added additional modules, I think in 2015-ish, they adopted a master policy agreement. So we're sort of, our contractual position with them is sort of this kind of a la carte hybrid. And I've talked to the attorney from NISC to kind of describe kind of our situation, describe that we're a public, we have public contracting rules, So part of this process would hopefully be to sort of, in going through this, maybe sort of get us under one agreement and not under sort of these multiple arrangements that we've developed over time, because the commission has added modules over time, and they've each kind of come in at a different time and sort of arguably under a new arrangement. So that's also a bit of an issue with NISC, but hopefully we'll be able to work through it. But my observation is we are deep. I've kind of joked with staff that it's a bit, it's sort of like I was looking at that graphic. It's a little bit like being part of the board. We're part of this big organization, and we're very much. That was a Star Trek reference, by the way. But we were so integrated with it now, it would be very difficult to back out. And frankly, if we were to go to a different organization or a different vendor, we would be talking about probably no less than a year of transition, probably at a minimum. So this is not a short-term transition process. But I do understand that NISC, they're actually too, they're modernizing. Like I said, they're going through a sort of recent review of their own agreements with customers, trying to get away from what they consider sort of legacy agreements, like the original one we entered into with them in 2008. But I think but the fundamental question is, do we go out and look elsewhere, sort of in the RFP model or RFI, request for information or something, and bring back, does the commission want to see options?
I would just add, I think that's a very insightful to transition from one platform to another. There's a huge burden and also risk in that. What I hear from John is that this is a company that can respond quickly. And it also sounds like John and his team could even be kind of technical support on the needs of what Water and Light has as far as, sort of the customizing of it. I think moving to a cloud-based platform makes a lot of sense. I appreciate that you would want to see other vendors. I think that the cost of transitioning gives me hesitation in making staff go out and do that work. But I defer to the commission on that.
So what we could do is we could go out and do an informal, I think that's what Tom's getting at, is kind of check around with some of the other utilities and see what they're using to make sure that there is nothing else out there.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that we go to an RFP or an RFI right now. I just would like staff just to sort of check around with the people that you know and trust, and then let us know about that. I think I know how it's going to come out, but I think we have to ask the question.
Yeah, and that we can do. I think that's reasonable.
And I do remember the transition and how it was a little difficult. So I get that.
Well, and then the next question is, as we're looking at the new modified agreement, is there economies of scale of purchasing kind of the package as compared to the piecemeal that we've done?
Yeah, and that's actually something that they've added a kind of a package enterprise pricing system. Instead of all these separate line items that are part of your bill, they've figured them in as groups and options. And if you select this option, then it's full price if you have all the features, right? If you take some of the features off, they give you a certain percentage discount. And we are going to be moving to that pricing April, May, I believe. They are starting that process. They did ask if we want to do that ahead of time, but I asked if we could just stick with one way to explain it for right now. But it's definitely an easier way to see the products that we have, things that are options to us, and the pricing is the same, whether it's on the old way or the new way.
Okay.
So Tom, go ahead, Ed.
Do they as a company have consultants that they work with? I guess I'm curious about, are we really getting all of the value out of this system that we possibly could? You can take a door apart with a hatchet, or you can take it apart with a hammer. And I'm just curious about
Or a
Are
screwdriver.
do we know, do you guys know, are we getting our full value from it? In the end, might we want to hire a third party just to evaluate what's going on?
I think the easiest answer to that is no, we are not utilizing it to its full potential. There are a lot of efficiencies that we could still utilize, from as easiest as having customers start the service order process of signing up for service online without us having to start anything. There's other things like that available too.
But I think that's a very good question. I think we should ask that question because I think the answer you're going to find is yes, we're not utilizing it to the full potential we could.
And then there's some of the modules like the metering. We'd have to have smart meters to have the full potential of that continual update on usage. Correct?
The outage management piece, yeah.
But we're headed towards smart metering, I thought.
Well, we're putting in what would be not AMI but AMR. We're putting in remote read meters. The advantage we have with the meters that we're installing is that at some point, most of the AMI systems, the smart meter systems, can read those meters too. So we're not really losing anything by putting in what we're doing, but we're in an interim step, if you will, between the, what we're doing today and what the full-blown AMI system would be down the road.
So let me ask this question. In the hierarchy of McMinnville Water and Light, who drives the bus? Why do we have this software? Does it start with accounting and then everything falls in after it? Or did it start with, with the work order module stuff?
I might be prejudiced, but I'd say customer care and billing is the driver. I know IT was all the work behind it to start. But I think the beauty with this system was the financials merged in with it, integrated in with it. The mechanics out there and assets built in and integrated in with it. HR integrates in with it. Just everything had the capability of being integrated together with it.
So within this system, the company database for all information about the company sits in it, and all the departments can access it in that. So
Yes.
Are you the driver of the system?
I don't think I'm the driver of the main system. I know quite a lot about it. I would say I'm definitely the main driver of the customer care and billing piece, for sure.
So would you call it a business management system, or how would you describe the system we have bought?
I think with the pieces that they've have capable of adding, I would call it an enterprise system. It's more than just a business because you can get all the different pieces of your business. So a business system, enterprise system, maybe that's one and the same. But I think that was what was so attracting to it back when we first started, was the ability to integrate everything together.
Okay.
To circle back to an earlier question, and I know you can't 100% use everything. I don't understand all the stuff on my truck, and I've had it for 6 years. But what are we doing to try to make sure we use it more effectively and more completely?
That's a great question. For myself, I can only speak for myself and my department. What we do is just in our daily routines, talking to NIC support or fellow users of the system and other utilities. You learn of what they're doing and what you go to the regional meeting, or even the MIC, which is their national meeting, and you just see the stuff that other people are doing with it. You say, man, how could I start doing that? And you start researching it. And I learned the hard way that you need to make sure you test it and research it, or you accidentally send 800 people an email that you didn't intend to. That's how I approach it.
Does NISC have a rep or somebody who can come in and sort of give us a couple of day review of what we're doing and what we could be doing?
We have one currently, a regional rep, and she has been to visit us a few times. Mark and myself have seen her a few times. I know there's been a larger group. She's great. She's really knowledgeable and gets us an answer as fast as she can.
And I think I've met her actually at a conference, but could we ask her to come in and do a 2-day audit for us of what we're doing and how well we're doing it, or a 1-week audit or something like that?
So she's already provided us some things that they can see in the system that we're not utilizing. And I have started attacking those one at a time. It's just, like I said, you got to test that. And I don't want to just, hey, turn a switch on until I understand the repercussions.
I agree with that. But I mean, do they have a service where you could have somebody come in and do a kind of a deeper one, not just the low hanging fruit that pops up on their computers?
An evaluation.
That I don't know, but I could find out.
Okay, great. I would like to hear back about that too.
Okay.
Well, and another case in point that I think we're all familiar with is over the last couple of years, as we've had Mark work on our financials, and remember our spreadsheeting and the things didn't integrate, and we had to work with this program. I think we probably, and Mark, you might be able to address that. I think we pushed them pretty hard to see if they could tailor make some stuff to work with us, so we didn't have to do all of those macros in your spreadsheets possibly. Am I right?
Yeah, so we did work with them, and the solution was they have they call it an Excel extract that we use to do the departmental budgeting. They don't have the ability to generate the reporting that we have wanted to have straight out of their software. Being FERC based, FERC does not report by department, they report by activities. And so that's how the software is designed. And so what we're doing is different than what typical electric utilities would do. So, but we did get their help. They were very helpful in terms of helping us design, set up the system and be able to do what we want to do. And we have developed that reporting through their what they call an add-on, and are doing it that way. So.
Yeah, I just remember the process and you spending much time with them over the phone with that add-on, and then you ran double accounting for a while until you felt comfortable that the add-on and our way of providing information gave us what we needed.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, most of that was really in the design. We were trying to have them help us with achieving what we wanted to do. So it was a design exercise primarily.
Okay.
So I want to take us back to what John came to talk to us about tonight. It says staff is seeking direction from the commission on review of the service options and cost for either a decision to continue with NISC without solicitation process, sole source, or preparation of an application for competitive software services. I absolutely, I have a curiosity and would love to know what's out there in the marketplace, but I will tell you, and I mean, we all know this, it's just, it's a terrible process to change out, and I would not want to put us through that. I really wouldn't. But there'd have to be something so golden that and in all the years I've been on this board, we started out again with another, we were part of a group called Group 4, and it was a bunch of local utilities in Oregon organized the software thing. And then that we outgrew that. And I mean, it's constantly ongoing. And we have such a huge investment in this. I mean, like I said, if we're not using it fully, maybe there's a lot more for us to do, and we get more value out of what we're spending in that. But I'm not in favor of making a big move. It'll upset the apple cart so bad.
So Tom and Ed?
Patrick?
Yeah, so a couple of thoughts. One, as much as I give John a hard time today, NASC is a very good company, very quality product. And over the years, as I've observed, it's done a very good job for us. And so this kind of thought about, are we using it as efficiently as possible? I tend to, these pieces of software are very complex and have an enormous number of features to them. And so to me, it becomes, what is my business model or goal that should drive, should I use this or not? Not because I have a new shiny module, should I force myself to use it? So I'm hopeful we go down that road of making sure that we actually need this functionality before we try to force it into our business process. The other part is that NISC, if you kind of look at that graph and the adoption of other agencies, is that kind of success begets success. And you want an entire ecosystem for a piece of software. And so my gut tells me that while it might be interesting to informally check with other utilities, I believe it is unlikely that we will find another ecosystem that has the breadth and depth that NISC has. And finally, as to where we should keep our data, I believe we keep our data on our servers locally at the Water and Light facility. Is that accurate, John?
I do believe so. Last I knew it was.
Yeah, and so if it were me, I would be very not okay with having our data, even if we go to this more web-based interface, which I think is nice and is more convenient. You don't have to have a lot of, it's easy then for our clients, client PCs, client phones, client tablets to get to it. I think it's very important for you guys to keep your data here and not put it somewhere that Lord only knows how many hundreds or thousands of miles away it could be, which would not give the appropriate amount of control in a not very nice environment that could occur in the future. So those would be my points.
I would agree with that.
I agree with Patrick.
Good comments.
I agree with Patrick that it is highly, highly unlikely that we want to change over. I remember the last one. I think I was a big supporter of the switch to NISC. I just think we have a duty to at least have staff find out if there is that unicorn out there that could do it for us.
And that's an excellent due diligence thing to do.
Yeah. And don't we also have backup servers somewhere off-site? We don't want to talk about where it is in a public meeting, but I think we have backup servers as well.
I do believe that the data is being replicated to an off-site location, and Thad might be able to.
We covered that executive session, but I just wanted to, I think we do.
You might actually ask him to, the next product that they've got coming out, the new version that's the online browser-based, it still might actually be through the cloud back to our system here at the office. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think that it's just allowing you to log in through a central location and then still access the data. And I do believe some of that happens now back in St. Louis.
That would scare me absolutely to death.
If the data left here.
No, if you have to rely on a third party that is not in our area to be able to have your business function, it's a very bad idea.
Okay. So I would prefer to put the decision off for 1 month, and I think I'm quite confident I know what it's going to be, but I just think we have to, as Patrick says, do our due diligence and have staff talk to other utilities in our area that we know and trust, and we know have a similar business model to ours, and just make sure there's nothing out there that we need to investigate. I think I'm confident we won't find anything, but I think we have to ask the question.
I'm right with you, Tom.
Okay, so I think we've given direction to staff to do a little more due diligence and bring this back to us next month, and then we can pick up the discussion without the having to do the full report at that point, John. So
and I'll maybe just point out it may not come back to you in January. I don't know. I know I may be speaking out of turn, but they may not come back that fast, but.
Okay.
Well, I would think we're part of the, was Ormeca or whatever it was, John, what's our utility association called?
OMEU, Oregon Municipal Electric Utilities.
So, I mean, we probably could at least query them. That could
Yeah.
be done in a day.
We have contacts. We can hit them. We can hit the PUD Association. There's a number of ones we can pick up quick.
Yeah.
Right, and part of what I've tormented staff with is we do have an obligation to kind of tie this up in a bow under the contracting rules. And if the commission does decide to stay with NISC without a formal process, then there would be findings to be made.
Can you have those findings put together for us?
I'm sure I can, sure.
Okay, then that makes it a lot easier for the board.
Yeah, yes, but
Thank you, Sam, for giving us direction. Okay, any other discussion before we move on to our next?
John, thanks for the presentation. It was a nice job, and you obviously very thorough and do a great job with it.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, John. Okay, that moves us to the ODOT Cooperative Improvement Utility Agreement. And so James and Mark, if you could present to us.
All right. So before you tonight is Oregon Department of Transportation's Cooperative Improvement Agreement for the 3 Mile Bridge. Oregon Department of Transportation is in the process of preparing plans and specifications for advertisement. The project is anticipated to begin in 2021, that spring. In order to proceed with obtaining the contractor, ODOT's requiring McMinnville Water and Light provide a letter of credit from McMinnville Water and Light's financial institution or an advance deposit. The engineer's estimate for McMinnville Water and Light's portion of the project is $1,250,487. An internal analysis of these two options reveal that the fee for a letter of credit is 1.5% of the total contract amount. McMinnville Water and Light's cost to obtain such a letter would be $18,757 annually, with an option to amend the letter of credit to the lower amount each year as the total contract amount is expended. The other option is an advance deposit where McMinnville Water and Light would provide the state access to a project fund through an account. Either option, McMinnville Water and Light staff would be involved in reviewing the pay applications or tracking the associated costs to the project. Based on our analysis of these options, McMinnville Water and Light staff's recommending advanced deposit option. We've prepared a resolution for the commission. Mr. Justice and Mr. Dunmire are here also to answer any questions in regards to this agreement.
I'm sitting here thinking that, and I didn't read it in advance, but a deposit would be the best way. Letter of credit's just a lot of issues related to that.
Yeah, and we have the cash to be able to do that. But Tom?
Yeah, I'm looking on item C2, agency obligations, and it seems to say to me, and Sam, help me if I'm not reading this right, that the state is going to give us payment and performance bonds. Is that right? Going to give us?
What it says, I believe what it says, or what it was intended to say, was that not the state itself, but the contractor.
Okay, so it's the contractor. Okay, great. Okay, great. Okay.
I support staff's recommendation, Mr. Mayor. I don't know how we want to proceed here. Just have the resolution read, or?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
we have a resolution tied to that. So I have a motion. Any further discussion before we go down this process?
No.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll go ahead and read it by title. It's resolution number 2020-34, resolution authorizing and approving a cooperative improvement agreement between the state of Oregon acting by and through the Department of Transportation and the city of McMinnville acting by and through its Water Light Commission regarding construction of utilities on the 3 Mile Lane Bridge.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, then Trina, could you poll the commission for resolution 2020-34?
Yes, Mayor Hill,
Yes.
Commissioner Tankersley,
Yes.
Commissioner Gormley,
Yes.
Commissioner Fuchs,
Yes.
Commissioner Christensen.
Yes.
Resolution 2020-34 passes unanimously. Thank you. Let's move then to the contract award for Highway 99 W water main replacement project. Chad?
Yes, good evening. We are seeking commission approval toward a public improvement contract for work for a Highway 99 water main replacement. The work will be conducted between McDonald Lane and McDaniel Lane primarily. The largest focus of this project is to abandon some aging 6-inch cast iron pipe and install new 12-inch ductile, which will increase our capacity. The project will be completed at night and will be running concurrently with a larger ODOT project that will be going all the way out to McDougal's Corner on Highway 18. This was a formal bid process. So we did post with the DJC, the News Register, 7 plan centers, and we actually sent it to 29 different contractors. A lot of that was through requests. We conducted a public bid opening via Zoom and YouTube Live. We received 8 bids. We opened those 8 bids. Pacific Excavation was our low bid at $526,000. Doing some further investigation on Pacific, they've done several larger jobs. They actually did the Hill Road improvements for the city of McMinnville. They did a joint trench project out on Hill Road for us as well for water and light. They've done some work for the city of Beaverton and Washington County. So they've done plenty of work. So we're making a recommendation tonight to award the contract to Pacific Excavation in the amount of $526,000 and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign pending notice of intent to award and no protest being issued.
Also move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Before we leave the item, Chad, is the highway being resurfaced and we're working within that situation?
Yeah, I know there's paving to be done, and James might be able to chime in a little bit. There's a large portion of this project for us
Because I remember the city doing some sewer work, and we had to repair from intersection to intersection. Just it was one of the states, we were dealing with a fairly new highway in that. Who's the engineer on this?
Internally, it's
What's that?
yes, that the Stantec.
Okay, good enough. Okay, thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've approved that, and so we can move forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's move to payment in lieu of tax correction, and we'll have Mark update us on this.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this evening, staff is seeking commission approval for correction to McMinnville Water and Light's payment in lieu of tax amount to the city. Per ORS 225-270, the City Council and City Council Resolution, Water and Light pays to the city a monthly payment in lieu of taxes that's based on 6% of gross power collections. And as a result of recent review, staff has discovered an oversight in payment practice from collections for the period of fiscal year 2012-13 to the current fiscal year relating to credit card collections. Looking to correct the oversight, staff sought legal advice from general counsel, which he will share with the commission in executive session.
So we'll just move this then for further discussion into the executive session, Sam.
Yes, I believe that is correct.
Yeah.
And so we'll be moving to, let me just get to it just a moment. So we'll be moving into executive session pursuant to, this is ORS 660 or 192-660 sub 2 sub F. Consider information or records that are exempt from public inspection relating to confidential or privileged records. And so I'll share with you that information in executive session.
Correct. And then item
And-
G, go ahead.
We'll come back out. We'll come back out into open session after the executive session for any action.
Okay, thank you. And then we also have the general manager's evaluation annual review, and that's going to be taken into executive session also, and we'll need to come out and
Yeah, we might want to come out and act on this one, and then go back in for the review and for the security update. That might be the best way to handle it.
okay. So with that being said, I think we're ready to move into executive session, and we're going to be doing executive session pursuant to ORS 192-.6602F to consider, excuse me, that's security. It would be ORS 192.355 sub 4. And so Trina, if you could take us into executive session.